My name is Ed Worley. My artist name is Opake, O-P-A-K-E, and I paint pop art, kind of confused, chaotic mess, basically. My mental health has always been questionable. Addiction for me was and escapism was how I dealt with that. I ended up on and off the streets for about 8 years in my 20s. I realised when I got clean that I had no purpose, and I started to play with the idea of making art my purpose because it's all I've ever really known. My process allows me to totally live within a specific moment whilst I pull each line by hand with a pen. I have to be completely focused on that, which allows my brain to calm down, which allows me to live in the moment. What I'm going to share with you today is the idea of repeating images and a way of doing that and just making a cool small drawing out of it. And you can do it with any reference point and a few easy to come by things. So stage one, making sure you've got all of the things that you need to do this process. Peanuts, reference book, make sure you've got your reference of what you're going to draw. Drawing paper, just a cheap pad of paper. Tracing paper to trace your reference and make your light box. Pencil, marker pen, Sharpie, and a fine liner. You're also going to need at some point a stack of books or anything you can kind of get your hands on to create your makeshift light box. I'm using a piece of glass, but I would say probably try and use just something that's see-through, like a piece of Perspex, but be careful if you're going to be using glass. Tracing your reference. Find your reference in your book. I'm going to reference this Joe Cool Snoopy image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace him. Trace him with a Sharpie to get a loose reference image. Repeating images, I find comfort in the repeating of actions and the repeating of everything, really. It's how I kind of live my life. And I also just think that once you multiply, you take something that is so well known and loved and you multiply it, you get a totally different feeling of what that image or what that thing looks like. And it just gives it kind of more power. So that's why I do it. But yeah, so you just start by tracing your image. It can be rough. It can be as rough as you want because you're always going to have your reference in the book. I did have the idea of just completely tearing the page out of the book and then using that, but I don't know. People might not be that happy with that. Just ripping your family's books up, so don't do that, maybe. The other thing you could always do is just, if you have a printer, just find a reference on Google and then print it out and do the same process as this. All right, got your image, let's just put those dots in. Got your reference. Now we have Snoopy. So now what you've got to do is build your light box. Easily doable. Get yourself your books or whatever you've come across. I've got these small wooden panels. Stack up either side of each other. You might want to adjust the height get an iPhone, it's got a torch on it, or get a torch, slide it underneath, and you've got a light box. Lay your tracing paper on top of it. Use your masking tape. You want either masking tape or something like frog tape, probably not sellotape or duct tape. So I'm just using masking tape because it's what I've used for my paintings, but I think any tape would work. You could, if you want to, get your Sharpie immediately and immediately trace through your pen lines. But depending on how complicated you want to go with your image and how much you want to overlap that image, it's best to do it in pencil, so then you've got a rubber with you and you can rub out where your images are going to overlap, and you can make it as chaotic as you possibly want. So I'm just going to do a very simple one of, say, 3 or 4 Snoopies in a line. And again, you know, like obviously you can be creative in so many ways. What this is something that is a kind of very specifically kind of quite rigid process, but the process of actually kind of sitting there and drawing is, you hopefully will just kind of lose yourself in what you're doing. It's quite therapeutic. Now you've penciled in all your Snoopies and you've got your outlines of where all your Snoopies are going to be. Next, what you want to do is block in your colour before you black outline, because then you've got your solid base of wherever your colour is going to be. I'm using this red twin tip marker, and you just want to block in your Snoopy, in this case Snoopy jumpers, his little Jokel red jumper, and then you can go again as wild as you want with this. With markers as well, when you're filling in colours, and I guess the same with a Sharpie, is try and push the colour. You don't really want to be going like, you want to keep the pen flowing in a specific direction, because you're going to then get a nice flat colour of like in the ear as an example, instead of just kind of scribbling and trying to try and get some like a methodical directional flow of the pen. Start small. I started out I love drawing. I wrote graffiti, but I love drawing, and I tried to draw one thing every day. Okay, now you've finished that and you've done your line work. If you want to, and you've got a twin tip marker or a felt tip pen, what you can do is you take the thicker end of the twin tip and then just blow gently against the nib of the pen, and it will disperse, the air will disperse the ink out of the pen and just give it a nice kind of spray paint, kind of overspray effect. And instead of using an airbrush, you can just in specific parts. Once you've done that, sign your work. A lot of artists like to sign their piece. You've just done this, and be proud of it that you've made it. Put a little signature in the corner and you're ready to go. All done. I think anybody that's suffering, is young people with any sort of mental health. For me, it was about simplifying everything down simplify your life to very basic to what you need to do. Don't overcomplicate it. Simplify everything down until you're comfortable with that routine, and then start to add to it bit by bit. And I think it will clear your mind. It helped me with mine anyway.